Hi, this is Kim Kent with Bridge Elementary and Bridge Extension, and I'm here with Trina Ferguson and Heidi Pitchler and Latoya Strain, and we are here to talk about homeschooling your little people, your pre-K, your kindergarteners, all the way up through like early elementary, first, second, third grade, and so forth. So I'm so grateful, ladies. Thank you for taking time today to speak with us and to speak with the greater audience here about what it's like and what are some of the things that they can be doing right now as homeschoolers to really provide a rich experience for their really early elementary age kids. So we want to go around. I'd like for you guys to please introduce yourselves. Let us know who you are, how many kids you have, what are their ages, and how long have you been doing this? And Trina, why don't you start with you?
All right, I am Trina Ferguson. I have 3 children. Their ages are 16, 9 and 7, 16, 9, and 7. And I've been homeschooling for 11 years now, 11, 12 years now, something like that.
Cool. And what grades? What grades do you have? Especially for
rising 11th grader, rising 4th grader, and rising 2nd grader.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Heidi, tell us about you.
I'm Heidi Pickler. I have 4 children, almost 8, 6, almost 4, and 1.5. So I have been homeschooling now we're just finishing up the 3rd year. So I have a rising 3rd grader, a rising 1st grader, and then we're going to do pre-K. So, and then we got 1, in the toddler years. So.
Awesome. We're going to talk about that too. I think people need to understand that, homeschooling happens really from the womb on out, so yeah. Anyway, and then Latoya, tell us about you, please.
Hi, I'm Latoya Strain. I have 3 children, 17, 15, and 7, and they are they're rising freshmen in college, 10th grader and a 2nd grader, and I'll be graduating my first this year.
Yay! So you really, for you, Latoya, you are the full spectrum. Mm-hmm. You kind of on that whole, group too. You got that wide gap too. And then Heidi, I feel like you are right here in the thick of it with these little ones. So awesome. All right. So then let's just talk about this. What is it? I mean, and y'all feel free to answer. Anybody jump in. What's it like? First, really, what prompted you to homeschool your kids? Anyone?
For me, it was actually not something that I had planned to do. I actually was completely against it. My mom kept pushing, and I just kept ignoring her. And I was actually pregnant with Christian, and she was pushing at that time. And when Christian turned about, I think it was 4, I started getting all these emails and stuff in the mail, and it was just all about homeschooling. And I honestly didn't understand where it was coming from. So I assumed it was coming from God. And so it just kept coming. So it was just confirmation after confirmation. My husband and I did a chart, pros, cons, questions, concerns, of private school, public school, and homeschool. And it was really clear on the chart that homeschool was what we were supposed to do. And I ignored that too. So I was like, well, it's just on paper. That's not real. So then I remember there was a perfect stranger at a library who came up to me and asked me if I had considered homeschooling because she watched Christian, and Christian didn't respond until kids started leaving. And she said, he seems like he would thrive in a smaller setting. So, I was just like, well, we thought about it, but I'm ready to go back to work. So I'm not going to homeschool. The final straw, it was just so heavy. I just began to pray, and I asked God, it wasn't even a nice, wonderful spiritual conversation. It was in tears. And if this is what you want me to do, then here are my demands. I want curriculum. I just laid it out. And after I said amen, my husband called me. He was at work, and he said, hey, this lady on Free Cycle is giving away a chalkboard. He was like, I really think, it's for us. So I was like, okay, whatever. That would be nice in the playroom. So We went to the lady's house and got the chalkboard, and she said, I am closing my Christian daycare center, and I feel led to give you some material. She said, what are you thinking about doing with your son? Because Christian was with us, and I think he was turning 5 at the time. And I said, well, you know, I thought about, people keep telling me I should homeschool, but I'm not really ready for it. And she said, well, I believe that God brought you here. She gave me boxes of Abeka material, curriculum, and other types of curriculum from pre-K all the way through 3rd grade. She gave me notebook paper, pencils, I mean, like everything that I had on my list, no joke. She had every single thing that was on the list that I had just finished demanding God. that was like the last thing. It was just at that point, I called my mom and I was like, if I ignore this, then I'm really walking in disobedience.
Yeah.
And I told her everything, and she started laughing. Well, she waited actually until I actually signed up with the county. He was 5 at the time, and I notified the county that's what we were gonna do, and I let her know. And my mom said, I already knew that you were gonna choose that, and that's why I signed you up for all those emails. And so at that time, I knew that, she was in on it as well. Yeah. But at that point, there was literally there was nothing else I could do but, okay, Lord, I obey. And that's how we got to that point.
Awesome. Heidi, what about you?
So my husband and I had started talking about homeschooling before we ever had children.
Wow.
And I would say one of the major pulls for us were just academics. We both went to public schools. He went to a private high school. And we both looked at both of those systems of what we walked out of it and what we retained, like knowledge-wise. And just the process, we just felt like, academically, it was a more sound road to go. I think since that may have been my catalyst to homeschool. I think the reasons I continue to homeschool, that has now become, a piece of the big puzzle. I think, now it's a lot more like you see the family bond and the values, and you see all the things that they, don't necessarily have to be exposed to because they're not into a much larger system. So, for us, it was kind of very, one-sided of our original catalyst. But I think, once we stepped through that door and made that commitment, all of the reasons became much larger for us.
Beautiful, beautiful. Latoya, what about you?
We actually didn't start homeschooling until my boys were in 3rd and 6th grade. So they didn't start out homeschooling, but I think God was leading me there before they even started school. My brother-in-law actually asked me, are you going to homeschool Amari? And I had never heard of it really. So I was like, no, he's going to school. But I think that was God planting the seed of it. And so then Amari went to school, and his best friend in the 2nd grade left school to be homeschooled. And he was like, can I be homeschooled? And at that time I was working, so I was like, it's not even something to think about right now. So, but then I kept hearing about homeschooling and just how great it was. And my heart started just yearning to do it more and more. And so as I heard about it and learned more about it, it was something that I wanted to do. Then I got pregnant with Liana, and Amari was going to middle school that next year. And we didn't like the middle school in our area, so we were going to put him in private school anyway. But then we were like, private school and full-time daycare, you know what, my check's going to be eaten up anyway. So let's think about this right now. And that's something we did. And we said, we'll take it year by year. And here we are. And now Amari's graduating. So.
Wow. Awesome. Well, now you all have little ones, and that really is one of the things we really want to hone in on. What do you do when you have a little preschooler, a kindergartner, 1st grader, and you've made the decision to homeschool? Give us an idea. If somebody was to come to you off the street and say, listen, I have a little person, I have, this pre-K person, or this, and Heidi, you're right there, this 3 and 4-year-olds, and I want to homeschool. What do I do? What does that really look like? Give us some insights on what that looks like for that particular age group. What do you do?
I like to call it fun learning.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot. I like to do hands-on. I just feel like, especially for my crew, I feel like they learn better hands-on, and I want them to, like my younger girls, they do a lot of play. They play. We do math eats, which is simply, you know, using math in the kitchen. And like, for instance, for fractions, we may do pizza, you may do Skittles or M&Ms. We do a lot of hands-on, at least I try. I really do try to do a lot more hands-on with them, a lot of stations. But ultimately, like, the world is their schoolroom, is their classroom. And so I really like to incorporate life with what they're learning. So for me, that's kind of what it looks like, a lot of hands-on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same here too. Just hands-on learning, making it fun. You can do arts and crafts and learn. You can do cooking and learn, or just going out in nature and looking at the trees and the birds. So just trying to make it fun. And science is always fun, trying to do experiments. So just like Trina said, the world is, you know, where they learn everything now. So just making everything a learning opportunity.
I would agree with, I definitely think the hands-on. I think, you know, the biggest thing for me was, you know, because I knew I wanted to homeschool, I was like so excited to like take on that role. So for my oldest, it was like, let's jump in. And it's really keeping in perspective that less is more. And one thing that, you know, that I love, once I kind of let go of some of the more formal idea, was sticker books, history sticker books, science sticker books. I mean, you can read a little excerpt, but, and also keeping in mind that this is just their, like, you're sprinkling onto them. So they don't need to remember all of this stuff. If they're like picking up little pieces as they're doing hopscotch, or, you know, we'll just read this little excerpt and they're seeing the guy with the shield and the sword, and that's all they remember. Like, that's a piece that's going to grow. Like, they're going to remember that because they remembered snuggling, and they remembered reading, and they remembered looking at those. So definitely, you know, hands-on and little bits at a time.
Actually, that's a great segue, because one of the things I wanted to ask all of you was what were some of your preconceived notions that you came into homeschooling your little ones? Because I really do want to hone in on the little ones. What were some of the things you thought that you needed to do? And then what were some of the changes? I think, I also want to say, what were some of the misconceptions you had going in? And then what changes did you make along the way as you started homeschooling your little ones?
So one, I think definitely coming from a public school background, like, I definitely went into it with more of like a school mentality. I think, you know, we got to sit down and we got to look at this, and we've got to read, and we've got to do worksheets, and like we have to prove that we're learning something. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a big piece. Like, when I started, was feeling like I had to have proof that we were schooling. And I think over time I was able to let go of some of that expectation that they have to have all of this all of the time. And I think just letting go of expectations, probably the biggest thing and the biggest change that I did, was not even just for myself, but also for them as little people. Like, I can't expect them to be doing school all day, like school, but presenting information in a way that is very interactive. Like, you can have them learning all day, and it just, you know, it looks different than what you would see in a different setting.
It was the same with me, just coming from, like you said, the public school background, coming into it like, you know, okay, sit down, and, you know, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. And I found, especially with my girls, they just don't function that way. And for them, I also, since they are only 2 years apart, I also had to remind myself that they are different. They learn differently. They are different children. And even though they are like together all the time, they are still different children. I know for my youngest, she struggled with potty training. And I'm just like, I know, like my middle child like was quick to potty train. I mean, she was the easiest ever. And I called my mom, and I was just so frustrated because I'm like, the youngest one, she picks up on everything. Like, she is just such a fast learner. So I didn't understand why potty training was so like difficult for her. And I called my mom, and she was actually older before it finally kicked in. But my mom said to me, she will not go away to college not knowing how to go potty. So like, relax, she'll get it when she gets it. Don't completely stop, but she'll get it when she gets it. And once she got it, literally, like we did a celebration recently. So this was recent. So we did a celebration recently because the nighttime was such a struggle. And so we celebrated together as a family, because she was out of pull-ups at nighttime. And so having that mindset that they are not going to go to college still laying on the floor during class. They're not going to go to college, not knowing how to go to the potty. These things actually just kind of makes me relax a little bit more. Because like you said, it's sprinkling, no pun intended, but it's just like, we are, we're guiding them, but we don't have to give them everything all at one time. So just kind of go with how they're learning and their milestones and their, where they are, as opposed to this is where most kids are and this is where you have to be.
Love it.
Yeah, me too, because my boys started out in public school. So even when they were younger, just jumping in thinking I had to be a teacher, they had to sit here, do this amount of work. So, and like you're thinking about your reviews, and we have to do this. So being too structured, but then realizing we can just pull back a little bit. We can slow down the pace. We can have a little bit more fun. Even with Liana, the same thing. So not just trying to be so hard and structured on them, but realizing it's fun. So we can pull back a little bit. We don't have to be struggling. We have the flexibility to take a little bit longer with everything. So.
Awesome. And speaking of fun, let's go into some of the fun stuff. What are some of the fun things that you've done? What are some of the activities that you've been able to find for the younger ones that you've been able to incorporate into your homeschooling?
Sticker books. I swear by them. I have found them from history to science to math. Like, if you've got a kid who likes stickers, you can find a subject that has a sticker book option, especially for somebody who is reluctant to write. If you've got a reluctant writer, focus on handwriting when you're doing handwriting, and then try not, because it'll interfere. I did this with my oldest. It was like we couldn't get through our math lessons because I wanted her to fill out worksheets. The moment I tossed the worksheets and she didn't have to write, we took off in math.
Wow.
So it's really stickers, colors. I'm trying to think, even thinking outside of the box, doing lessons outside with chalk on the sidewalk, or finger paint, and outside, not your traditional schoolwork, things like that. And speaking of the kitchen, so I have my 6-year-old loves to cook, very creative, and so I found these visual measuring cups, and they're the coolest things, because the one cup is like a full circle, and then your half cup is a semicircle, and then you've got a third and a quarter where they actually look like fractions of a circle. And so it's incorporating weird things like that, and makes it so that you're covering, and it's fun, and it's not school.
Yeah.
Right. I like to with social studies, she was learning the states. So along with the states, we will make a dish for each state. And so she loved that. And she'll remember some states because of either the food we made or the craft we made for it. we would learn about Black History Month and the man who created the stoplight. She still remembers that because we made a craft with a spotlight, and she'll still talk about that today. Or our science experiments, we learned the water cycle, so we put a little bit of water in a Ziploc bag and put it up to the window, so we saw evaporation, condensation, precipitation,
Yeah.
the song that goes with it. So just making it all fun like that, and she still remembers all that to this day because it was fun and it was hands-on, and so it kind of stuck a little bit more than writing and reading all the time. So
awesome.
Just to add to that, the girls, they love science and they love science experiments. So anything that blows up, they enjoy. I still have remnants on my wall, my ceiling in the kitchen. That's just what it is. But one of the things that I found, actually I didn't find it. My sister gave it to us for Christmas one year, and I think it was last year. But anyway, it was a lipstick, like a chapstick kit, science kit, and the girls actually made their own chapstick or lip gloss. They made their own lip gloss. And that was our science for the day. And it actually talked about why the lip gloss worked and why if you add a sunblock to it, it just literally took you through the whole science of making lip gloss. And my girls are really into everything girly, everything. So to be able to make their own makeup was so much fun for them. But then to actually be able to talk about why this particular lip gloss doesn't work and why this one lasts longer, why this one protects, your skin. I thought that was really good. They love it. And then the other thing, I know it's against a lot of people's rules, but electronics have been actually surprisingly effective with my girls. And like I came downstairs one day and they're speaking French to each other. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And they're just like, oh, this is French, oui, oui. And they're just going on. And I'm like, how did you learn? And I said, how did you learn French? Because I don't know any French. And they said, oh, Fancy Nancy. I was like, oh, okay, Fancy it is. So they read Fancy Nancy books. They watch Fancy Nancy, shows, and they pick up these words and they're walking around the house and saying them. And so, and even with Kaylin, she's actually the one that taught us how to use Zoom. But she just, she's the youngest. She's always really been into electronics. And I didn't even give them to her. Like I literally had my cell phone in my hand and she wasn't even 2 yet. And she took my thumb and she put it down on my phone and my phone opened up. And I was like, how did that happen? So eventually we realized that we just thought she was holding our hand. But she literally was taking our thumb and putting it on the phone to open it up so she could play on it. So she's always been into electronics, and I tried to stop it, but someone encouraged me to keep it going. Just like do coding with her and things like that, because she literally figures things out. You give it to her, and she figures it out in no time. So that's one thing that I'm finding. It's actually fun for them, and it's fun. It's starting to become fun for me as well.
Awesome. I think, when you talk about the electronics, there's so many resources out there. Like my 6-year-old, my second, he was definitely drawn to the electronics at a very, very young age. And so again, me too, it's a young kid. You're like, you were trying to limit it, but you try to offer these educational resources. He taught himself to read using one of those phonics apps. Wow. I swear, I was like, okay, and so, but I think that's also to add to what we're talking about, these fun resources, you can really get to see what they're drawn towards and allow them to kind of excel at their own pace that way, within reason, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
that's awesome. What about outside opportunities? I know that we're in the age of COVID-19 right now and social distancing and stuff is closed, but prior to that, and we assume, Lord willing, we'll go back to where we can go to some things. What are some of the outside opportunities that you were able to utilize for your kids?
Is that in addition to the tutorial or?
Oh, okay, yeah, that too, right. Well, this is tutorial, but other things okay.
Well, Liana did a lot of classes at the community center. So ballet and art classes, she did those type of things. So, and then she would get to be around other kids, get to have friends, and just develop some new thing that she learned. So those were some of the things we did. Okay. Along with the nature center too at Watkins Park and the farm there, taking field trips, so museums, stuff like that.
Awesome. Actually, well, I'll make sure that we have a link down below for like things like the Watkins Park and the nature center there. I think it was at Old Maryland Farm, I think is what it's called. Or yeah, I'll make sure we have links to that. Okay, what else? What are some of the other?
I think where we're at, there's so many places to visit. Like we've got Baltimore and DC really close, so the zoos, the science center. Those are definitely that young age, the science center is great. They've got that whole interactive room you can take them into there, and they're just, you know, I believe they redid it like in the last year, where they can go and they can just play, but they're really interactive. But they also offer, you know, there's stuff all in that science center for them at that age. They can touch and feel and crawl through and really experience that.
Do they still have the Maryland? Because I remember they had the, my kids were younger, they had the whole several weeks that were homeschool weeks at Maryland Science Center. Do they still do that?
I think they do 2 or 3 weeks in both the fall and January, I think it is. I think it's like September and January. It's like 2 or 3 weeks of homeschool, like, programming that you can go. And they've got that from like, they've got programs for your elementary school level ages all the way up, I believe, through at least middle school. And they're only like $5 a program or something like that. And then with your admission, you can explore the whole facility for the day.
Okay.
So.
Awesome. In addition to that, my girls, they're in dance, so they're at a dance studio. But their pediatrician actually suggested the grocery store. And I mean, I've done it before, but one of my girls, I believe it was Lillian, the middle one, she was very, very particular about what she ate. And so my pediatrician actually suggested, he said, take her to the grocery store. And he said, what I did with my girls was every week, they took turns on what fruit or vegetable they were going to pick. And for Lillian, she loves fruits and vegetables, but she doesn't really like protein. And so he was saying, even with that, have them switch off and one pick something that you haven't eaten before, and then come home and cook it. And so that whole thing becomes like an all-day field trip learning experience, because you're learning about math, you're learning about cooking, you're learning about different things that you normally don't eat. But having her be able to do that, and having both of them, because Kaylin's the opposite, she's the meat eater and nothing else, meat and snacks. And so having her pick out the actual fruit and vegetables, and we come home and we prepare it, that, I mean, it's still a struggle from time to time, but it's actually gotten a lot better. So like I said, the pediatrician actually suggested that for them, and it's a lot better now. They're a little more balanced than what they were before.
Awesome, awesome. Heather Zimmerman has come and joined us as well. She's another mom of little ones. Heather, tell us the age of your kids. We were just talking about some of the things that we do, some of the opportunities that are available for our younger homeschool kids. So, but tell us the ages of your kids as well.
Sure. I have Chase, who's he just finished 3rd grade, so he's 9 years old. And then I have Ruth, who is 7 years old.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Great. So tell us, for all of you, what does your support structure look like? Again, because we were looking at these little ones, and that's a whole different age group in terms of being able to work independently and that kind of thing. So what does your support structure look like as homeschoolers of little ones?
Well, when I was first starting with Liana, and she was about 3, I was thankful for my mom, because she would come in and take her out. So that would give her some time away from me. and me away from her too. But it also gave her just space from me, and they would go out and my mom would take her to art classes at the community center, dance classes at the community center. They would go to the farm together. So that was good because it got me and Leona just some separation from each other. And it got her to just learning new things and developing this relationship with my mom. But I appreciated that support from her because it helped both me and Leona out at the same time. And then my boys helping her out with work sometimes, not always mom. And then even the tutorials helpful is a support also, because I've watched her flourish so much since she's been there. So, and my husband also helping her out when sometimes maybe I can't get through with her. So just all those different things were helpful and supportive to me.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would echo. Definitely, the tutorial has been wonderful for our family. It gives. It just seemed like I was the bad person because I was making my kids have to do all this work. But then when she introduced a tutor, they're like, "Oh yes, tutor, I'll do this, I'll do that." But if it was me telling them they had to do that, it was like we were just like fighting each other the whole time. So so definitely that. I also do a co-op, which is slightly different, and I do a co-op where they do the specials like health, music, art, PE. I feel like I teach the PE and health aspect there, but I don't feel like I could teach art or music very well. So there's other moms that step in and would teach my kids those things, and then I can teach the areas where I feel gifted in. So that's been really helpful. Also, just at our church, there's a lot of homeschool families, and so there's a lot of people there that it all looks different for each of us, but we also can rely on each other if we need, like, say, I just need my kids to go somewhere for like a little bit of time. I have other homeschool moms that I can kind of count on to help out whenever needed.
Yeah.
So I definitely what's nice is we have support in terms of everybody is backing us in our decision. In terms of the day-to-day, I'm pretty much, at home holding down the fort. But my mother-in-law likes to take my older ones and go to do trips to the Smithsonian and to NASA, and to help encourage and supplement what I'm doing at home when I can't juggle, the two littler ones in tow. So that's always a blessing when I can feel like the older ones can get out and have a little more, time to really explore their stuff while, without trying to keep a toddler and a baby, in tow. So family is definitely a big support there.
Awesome. Trina, how about you?
Same. Family. I definitely have a really great support from my family. And then my husband has family members who have homeschooled the entire time, and 3 of theirs are in college already. So that's helpful because it's encouraging to know, hey, they did it, we can too. And then just having friends who are in this with you, whether their kids are older or younger or the same age. It is so helpful to be around people who get you, who understand the tears, even when you don't explain them, who can definitely, my village, they can say things that I'm thinking, but I don't know how to say them. And so they say it for me. I'm getting all emotional. But they have been such a blessing to me over the last, I don't know how many years. Some have been in and out because just different stages in life. But just the last few years have just really been a struggle with trying to homeschool the little ones and having this middle schooler and now high schooler. So that having people who get you just makes it just makes things so much easier when you have so many other people who are saying, things that are discouraging, you know, you can always come back to this group that kind of help you know that, yeah, we're all crazy. We're crazy together.
That is awesome. That's awesome. So actually, one of the other things I was going to, because that really is a great tie-in where you're talking about the emotional support. One question I have for all of you is, what does self-care look like for you, especially when you have younger ones? And again, like I said, I really, one of the reasons why I really felt it was important for us to address what it is like for homeschooling the younger ones and having people who are in the trenches who are actually doing it, is because you guys really are able to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly of what that's like and what is needed. And so if you guys can talk, just tell us about what is self-care. What are some of the things that you wish somebody would have told you going in to this for your
I
little?
wish someone would have told me earlier that it is okay to take care of you. That's not selfish. That's actually helping your family, because if you run out, if your cup is empty, like there's nothing else that you can give. And I wish I would have, I wish someone would have told me that. My self-care, you know, many of you know Chartice Richardson, she is big on mommy timeouts. And she literally would send me a message or call or tag me on Facebook and mommy timeout, and so that constant, mommy timeout, it's like it's needed. It's definitely needed. And so for me, what that looks like, it could be a movie, because for me, movies take me away from the reality of life. It just takes me away. And so I'm blessed that the girls are close in age and they love doing things together. So I'll just say, hey, I'm about to go in timeout. Give me a moment. I'll go watch a movie. Or if they're at dance, I'll sit and I'll have a cup of coffee and a little snack. Not a little snack, but I'll have a snack. And literally like turn on music, and it's just me, and it is just awesome. And mommy, like, your self-care does not have to be something huge. It literally can just be those small pockets of time where you have, I like to say, your woosah moments. And that's self-care for me.
Awesome.
This quarantine actually has really got me into focusing on self-care for myself, because I really was not before. I was so caught up in homeschooling and then just regular kid stuff and being married and just trying to juggle everything. I wasn't taking care of me. But this quarantine time has just spoken to me in so many ways to now it's time to start taking time out for me. It's okay that they don't have a hot breakfast this morning. Cereal is just fine. Mm-hmm. I can go take a walk in the morning now, or, I could just take out time in the middle of the day for just something that I like, even if it's only 15 minutes. So just trying to learn that. And like Trina was talking about earlier, having a sister circle of homeschool moms where you can just connect with, and that is self-care also. Just being able to talk to people and get out your feelings and your frustration, and people who really get you. So, I'm very thankful to us. I'm very thankful for Trina. We're kind of in it at a similar time. We have high school and little people all at the same time. So we go back and forth, and within our own group chat, we just go back and forth, and just having people you can just lean on and who get what you're going through, and you know that you're not crazy. It's okay to feel like this, and who can get you through to the next moment so that you don't jump off that bridge. So
right.
that's helpful too.
So I would say, since I am still very much in the trenches with 4 between 1.5 and 8, there's not much where I feel like I can leave them independently. So I would say at this moment in time, my self-care is still very minimal, but it's things like speaking up when you need those moments. So I've now learned to say, I don't want anybody in the bathroom when I take my shower. I will take a 10-minute shower, and that is me time. Or even blaring the music while you're making dinner and dancing around the kitchen to get some of that extra energy out. The other thing that I would say when it ties into homeschooling is, like, on those days where you just aren't with it, like, it's okay to stop. it's okay to take a day off, and it's okay to cut the day short, because that sometimes is enough self-care, because you're carrying the weight of the planning and the teaching and dealing with their attitudes when they don't want to do it. And so it's like sometimes all of that is just too much, and it's just enough for you to say, you know what, the best thing for me to be the best for you is to just stop right here, press pause, and we'll pick it up when we can both deal with this a little bit better. So it's, you know, sometimes it's just enough of just pushing the pause button and sending them outside to the trampoline. And, you know, I joke around with friends of mine that have kids in public school, because I'm like, no, we don't take snow days. Like, if it's snowing, it's the perfect time to snuggle up and read our books. But we take spring days. Like, you hit that, you know, we're about to get to our days where it's like, we might not do much school for the next 3 or 4 weeks, because we need to get out, we need to get our energy out, we need to get our vitamin D, like, and so it's like figuring out that schedule, like, and that sometimes goes back to, like, you know, it doesn't have to look that cookie cutter school system, like, and that to me, like, even knowing those days of when to press pause is enough of a self-care moment for me. Because I used to push straight through it, and it's just like, but I have to do it. Like, you feel the weight of carrying all of it, and you've got to learn when to just say, we can all take that breath.
Mm-hmm. Heather, what about you?
Yeah, so exercise has always been a big part of my life, and sports. And so when the kids were real young, I found a gym with an amazing childcare program. Drop them off, and they would have their own exercise classes, and I would get my own time away to exercise, and that was like a real lifesaver for me for a while. And then just taking time, like when they do have tutorial and I drop them off, like I take time to exercise then, or just to be by myself. Go grocery shopping by myself, or whatever it is. It's just like, I get to go to the dentist by myself sometimes, and they're like the best thing ever. But sometimes that's my mom care time. But other than that, yeah, I echo. You know, I have a group of friends that we meet. We're not all homeschool moms, but we all do have young children, and we get together, and right now it looks like Zoom calls Friday nights, and we just chat about how we are and how life's going, and just that's a great outlet for me. When I can sneak away for a weekend with friends, I do that too sometimes, whether it be like a women's retreat with my church, or just the same group of friends just going away for a weekend. I take those opportunities too when I can.
Awesome. All right. Wow. So ladies, this has been really, really good. Any last minute things that you want to tell our audience about homeschooling little folks? And then your kids too, just how are they loving you? And what about those days when it's like, Mom, I don't know, because I know I've had those. But yeah, any last minute things that you'd like to share?
Talk a lot with them. I have these cute little conversation cards, and you know, of course I couldn't have done it when they were, you know, 1. But you know, when they actually started talking, we would kind of have these conversations from time to time. Now they're a little older, we'll have like a little tea time. Kaylin just asked me yesterday, when are we having girls weekend again? I said, I need money. You girls are expensive. But just talking, like even now during the quarantine, asking, hey, you know, how's it going? How's the quarantine going? And, you know, how do you feel? How are you brave? We try to ask certain questions every day, or at least we don't do it every day anymore, but we try to do it at least once a week. How are you brave? How are you kind? Just different questions like that to get them thinking. And I noticed that my husband actually said last week at dinner, after dinner was over, he said, it's amazing how they're still so young, but they know they are in tune with how they feel. And that did start when they were younger. If they were crying, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, like, oh, you know, it's okay, what hurts? Does something hurt? Or when the girls, when they get into it, you know, instead of just saying, I apologize, it's like, okay, well, sometimes, even as adults, sometimes apologies just don't cut it. So, you know, I'll have them ask your sister, what can I do to make this better? So just kind of walking them through those steps, I feel like it's definitely helpful for them to be in tune with who they are and how they feel at the moment, and then how to make things better for, you know, for the other person. And again, that took time, but it started, I want to say we actually started around toddler age. You know, of course, the questions weren't as deep as they are now, but just constantly having those conversations. We do not do baby talk unless like they're playing around or something like that. But I wanted them to always know how they were feeling. So I didn't do a whole lot of, I guess, baby talk with them, but just constantly talking with them. Even if you feel like they don't understand, just constantly leave those doors open so they will always be comfortable with, doors willing, comfortable with coming to you and talking to you about anything and everything.
Awesome.
I would say, especially with like little ones, like just be flexible, because, you know, like you might sit down and think, oh, we're just going to knock out school in 2 hours in the morning. Well, that might not work for your kid. I mean, I've got a kid who does schoolwork all day in little 15-minute spurts. You know, we get one thing done and then we're off into another world. And so like trying to be flexible with both yourself and with them, and don't be afraid to change things up if they're not working. Don't be afraid to, you know, go down a path and keep switching, but just be flexible, like all around, I feel like is the best advice I could give with the little ones, especially if you've got little ones that aren't schooling yet, because they're definitely going to be working against you rather than with you. But with flexibility, you can make it work.
Awesome. Anything else?
What I love seeing this year was just how having a senior, a freshman, and a first grader, but they were all working together and like helping her to grow as a first grader. Like she wanted to be independent like her brothers and sit at the table like them and just put some easy music in and just do some work. She just wanted to be like her brothers and then watch them help her and watch them work with each other with just trying to, you know, I need a computer now. When do you need it? Just seeing how they all work together. And I really appreciated that this year. And that's not something you would get in a normal setting, having all your children just sitting there working together, figuring out their work together, and just making each other better by being around each other. So I really enjoyed seeing that this year, especially with a senior moving on. So.
Wow. Heather, anything?
You probably touched on some of the stuff, but I would just say my two homeschooling for the two that I have it's totally different. So one that's very active and needed to be doing things during homeschooling, and another one that was like, give me worksheets. I love worksheets. Also, I would say that with my younger one, she was picking up so much just from hearing me teach to my older child.
Yes.
And so, you know, I wasn't having her sit down and like do the same stuff he was doing, but she was just hearing and picking up stuff. And so it just looked totally different. And I was probably more lax with her in like the preschool, kindergarten, because I was like, you know, she just kind of got it through osmosis.
We call that learning by osmosis. And that absolutely happens when you have those little ones and they're listening to their big brother or their big sister. They are picking it up. It is amazing. It is amazing to see that difference. So awesome. All right, ladies. Well, thank you. Thank you for all of your words. Thank you for all your wisdom. And I also I got to do a little plug because Trina Ferguson, you wrote a book. about your first years of homeschooling, right? And so I want to go ahead and plug that. I want to go ahead and make sure we have a link to that as well. And it was the early years, right? The early years.
It was somewhat the early years. This is my book, and it's lessons learned from my homeschool day. Awesome. Learning from the good, the bad, and the icky lessons to help you through your day. And Christian at this time, I want to say he was I don't know, maybe early middle school, maybe 6th grade. But Kaylin was 3. I think she was 3 at the time that I wrote this book. But the funny thing is, I love the cover the most because this is the reality of things with this one. And she pretty much at 3 told us she wasn't taking any more pictures. And she told us that I won't take any more pictures until I get a popsicle. So that's why she has a popsicle in her mouth, because that was the only way that she would take another photo with, and it just happened to be the perfect one. But she was like, literally, she's, yes. So yes, but it's a devotional, and it's a quick read. I wanted it for especially younger moms, or younger with younger children. Because a lot of times we're really hard on ourselves, and I guess all moms really, we're kind of hard on ourselves, and I wanted to kind of welcome you into my home and welcome you into the good parts, the bad parts, the icky parts of an unexpected journey, whether you're on a homeschooling journey or any kind of unexpected journey. That's why I wrote this book, and I talk about teachable moments, things that I've learned, a scripture, and then just what God taught me in it. And it's a quick read. Honestly, I really just wanted people to be able to go to the bathroom, grab it, read a chapter, and that's it. But it was really just to get that moment of, oh, she gets me. That's kind of how the book really, how I wanted it to come across, like I'm actually having a conversation with you. So it's called, again, Lessons Learned from My Homeschool Day, learning from the good, the bad, and the icky lessons to help you through your day.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, ladies, again, thank you so much. I feel like we covered a lot of ground. We're able to give some really good, can I say the one thing that I heard consistently from everyone, which was so important, and I think that every homeschooler, especially with little ones, but all of us, every homeschooler needs to hear, is that it's okay, and to lessen the pressure on yourself, because it's going to look different for everyone. So again, we appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing with us what it's like, and what are some of the tips and tricks, and what are some of the things that you do when you homeschool younger children. So thank you again, ladies. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.